There are a couple things about the Bible we're going to look at here that Crossway has done that I think people are going to be really excited about, really interested to see. And the first thing that we're going to see is that this is actually printed in the Netherlands. And by the way, this is an heirloom quality Bible. So they brought the heirloom Bible line back to the Netherlands as opposed to China. For a while, they were printing them in China, which a lot of people weren't very happy about, particularly with the quality. I think that was one big thing. The Netherlands printed Bibles, they just felt were a better quality overall. So the Netherlands printing is one thing, but the other thing is that this particular one that I'm looking at is actually a Horween leather brown cover. So their website says that the leather for this specialty Bible is produced by the skilled craftsmen at the Horween Leather Company in Chicago, renowned for their high-end leathers for over 100 years. Constructed with the highest grade of cowhide, Horween Bibles feature a deep brown cover that is beautifully rugged, flexible, and develops character over time. So we'll take a look at that very special leather that this Bible is covered with. But first, I wanted to show just right off the bat, the box is extremely nice. I was very struck just with how nice this box is, just in terms of the quality of the print on here. It's just so nice and sharp. It looks really good. And it's a very simple, but I think beautiful design. When you open the box, inside, you do have a pledge card, and even that pledge card there you can see is just really beautifully done. So it's these little touches that say you're really getting something special when you purchase this Bible. Another thing is that the Bible is wrapped in this material here. I always forget what to call it, but you can see what it looks like there. Very nice to have the Bible wrapped in that. And then looking at the back of the box, you see the features there. One thing I will note about this Bible is that it actually retails for $330 if you get it in the Horween leather. So some of you, when you just read that, pretty much fainted or fell over from shock. So I apologize, but you'll see that Horween leather is... and the other materials in this Bible as well are just of the highest quality, and that does cost money. And you'd have to decide if that would be worth it for you. But here are the features that are listed on the back. One thing I'm really happy about with this is the size of the type. It's not a huge Bible. This particular edition is called the Heritage Edition. They do have other heirloom Bibles in, for example, the Legacy Edition and the Omega, which is I think like a large print thin line kind of a form factor. The Legacy is a little bit bigger than this, but is also single column like this Bible. So you see here, it is single column format and a lot of other things that you would expect in a Bible like this. All right, enough with the box. The main star of the show is the Bible itself in the Horween leather. So what I want to say about this leather here is that there is leather and then there is leather. And I will show you in a little bit, comparing with other Bibles, that this is leather. To have a leather like this, I would say typically you'd need to go to a rebinder because it is a very hefty, thick, luxurious type of a leather that you just typically won't see from the mainstream publishers. And I think it's probably mainly because of the cost. But if you want something that's really almost on that level of a rebind, but want to get it straight from the publisher, this is an opportunity to do that. Now, the other thing I will say about this is that a lot of times when people judge Bibles, they are looking at what kind of visually strikes them. So if it has like a gilt line around the edge, if it has really beautiful long ribbons, if it has really stark stamping on the spine, that will stand out to them. This Bible actually doesn't have any of that. And what I would say about the design of this is what I would call understated elegance. To me, there's something actually really appealing and special about something that is really high quality, but isn't showing off, so to speak, at least not in any overt way. And what makes this special isn't so much the look in terms of anything that just really stands out, but the subtleties of it. Not only the way that this leather looks up close, but also the smell of the leather and the feel of it. And obviously you can't smell this leather, but the smell of this is, honestly, I was thinking about it. It smells like something I've smelled in the past with leather that I haven't smelled for a long time. And maybe that's because my grandfather worked as a shoe and luggage repairman years ago. That was his occupation. And I remember the leather smell in those environments. So that might be what it's conjuring up. I mean, it's an extremely high quality leather. And when you feel it and you smell it, you can tell it is something special. That being said, that doesn't mean everybody would prefer this, because it is a very understated kind of an elegance. It does have some stitching on the edge there. So you have the perimeter stitching. Then you also have this, what I think is called blind stamping on the spine with 4 raised spine hubs. Personally, I think this is just a wonderful spine. I like the idea that you can bring this Bible anywhere and it's not going to actually stand out. It's not going to draw attention to itself, but it's just really wonderful leather and high quality materials, and I would say something that's really going to last. Also with the color scheme, this does have gold gilt page edges with a red under gold or a salmon under gold art gilt. And then you also have 4 ribbons that I think are all different colors. So you have black, brown, this lighter cream color, and then another, I guess a little bit lighter brown. Now the ribbons, obviously some people much prefer something that's longer and wider. And I do think if Crossway wants to appeal to a more, kind of what the more broad demand is, they might want to consider doing that. But with this size Bible, it's not a huge Bible. It's more in that personal size range of Bible. It's actually, to me, a really great size. I don't think you necessarily need huge ribbons, but I am biased toward ribbons that are not very intrusive. So for me, I'm totally fine with ribbons like this because they kind of are functional but kind of stay out of the way too. Again, on the inside, you don't have a gilt line, but what you do have is just great material, very nicely done edge line construction. They do have the presentation page and some family records pages. These are all on kind of a semi-gloss cardstock. Then the title page, publisher title page. And here you get to look at the copyright information, which says here printed in the Netherlands, which makes many people extremely happy. It is a 2021 printing. And this is the Heirloom Bible Heritage Edition. They are using the ESV 2016 text edition. Here are the table of contents. You also have the books of the Bible in alphabetical order and a preface to the English Standard Version. I've talked about this translation of the Bible on my channel if you want to get more information about it. It's a very highly loved translation by many different people from many different groups. So I really am excited to see how popular the English Standard Version has become and that it's being so widely used. It's great to see a translation that's becoming, something a little bit like the King James in terms of its wide usage. Maybe not to that extent yet, but it's definitely doing very well. Anyway, here are the features of this particular edition. And then you have the Old Testament title page. So when you get into the biblical text, you can see just what a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful layout this is. If you like single column, you're going to love this. And that line spacing and printing, as you can see there, is just absolutely beautifully done. It is that a little bit over 9-point size font. Then you also have footnotes on the bottom of the pages. So if you like the ESV and you like single column, this is fantastic. In some ways, it is like the Traveris from Schuyler. However, the verse numbers are within the paragraphs there. So you could also use this in a church setting, teaching setting quite easily too, if you need to find specific verses. So what I will say about this Bible, and I'll compare it a little bit to some other things, is that I know it's expensive, but I will say that the paper in this is noticeably high quality. The camera obviously can't really tell you what it's like to feel the paper and see the paper in person, but I've felt a lot of different paper, and one of the things I try to tell people is when it comes to the expense of a Bible, one of the things that's kind of a hidden cost as to how expensive it is paper. We, again, tend to be drawn to the external things, the things that kind of catch our eye, but paper actually is one of the most important things, probably the most important thing about the quality of a Bible when it comes down to it. Both because of opacity, and you can see here the show-through is not bad at all, but also the feel of the paper and how long it's going to last and how it's going to age. Another thing you see with this format is just not only the line spacing, which is wonderful, but also there's really good margin space. So I think you'll find that you could read this for a long time, just read and read and read, and you would really not have a problem with eye strain. We'll get into the poetic settings here, and you can see in these long poetic sections just how nice that poetry looks. Now, this does come in other cover options if you don't want to spend as much as we're talking about here with the Horween leather. They still have this text block in other covers. So if you're just really, really interested in getting this text block, there are other options available. Getting to the end of the Old Testament, here's the New Testament title page. And then as we get into the New Testament, it is a black letter text for the words of Christ. And I really can't say enough good things about this layout. It's not only beautifully designed, people have loved the font and the look of the ESV for a long time, but we are talking about top-notch printing. When you get to the end of the biblical text, the next page is a table of weights and measures. Then you do have a little bit of blank Bible paper here, and then the ESV maps, which I don't think have changed at all over quite a few years, and they are printed on glossy or a semi-gloss cardstock. And then you have your final cardstock paper and end sheet here. And again, that edge-line construction for this Bible, which I will say is very hefty, but also still pretty flexible. And again, this particular leather is actually going to soften up and really age nicely. So as I said at the beginning, there's leather and then there is leather. So I wanted to compare this to a Bible that I think is actually really nice. And one reason I wanted to show it in comparison is how similar in their footprint they are, at least the covers. The text block in this, if I open it up, you'll see is actually a little bit larger in terms of its height. And so it actually goes up to the edge of the cover more than this Heritage Edition. But this is a CSB personal size single column Bible. So I wanted to show, because of the size, closeness in their size, but also in their single column formatting. What I noticed about the CSB, it is a little bit larger print, but there's such good breathing room on this page. The readability is quite close. But what I really wanted to show, though, is just, the material quality difference. It's hard to really show it. It's something you can almost really feel in person a lot better if you compare the paper, for example. But maybe you can see here just how nice the printing on that paper is, how high quality that is, and just the color of it is just beautiful. But it's really the cover here that I wanted to compare, because this is a genuine leather. It is made with goat skin, but they were never trying to pass this off as like premium goat skin. It's, I don't think, a top grain leather. Nevertheless, there's actually kind of a similarity in this leather to the Horween in terms of it just being smooth. But people have pointed out that this CSB goat skin, I think, does sometimes deteriorate a little bit. It doesn't really necessarily hold up super well if you use it a lot. And that's where, again, this leather here is worth a lot more. Also, it's just a thicker piece of leather. So that's why I say this is when you really think of the highest quality leather, this is really a good example of high quality. However, the PSQ here, this is also leather, and this is in goat skin, and it's very nice. And this leather, I felt, always had a really nice smell to it too. But again, I would say that as good as this is, this Horween is probably a little bit more hefty and probably will just have a really neat look to it as it ages over time compared to the goat skin, which is more uniform in how it looks and how it ages. As far as the size, though, you can see that this Heritage Edition is larger than the personal size Quintel. Both printed, I believe, in the Netherlands, so both have excellent quality of print and layout, but this is actually more readable in my opinion overall. And it's just a fantastic size and a wonderful layout that I think can be used for a lot of different settings. And really the point of a Bible is something that you're going to love to read. And I think a lot of people are going to really find this just a wonderful, wonderful Bible to read and use. So that is a look at the Heirloom Bible, the Heritage Edition, English Standard Version, in the Horween leather. If you have any questions or comments about this Bible, I would love to see that in the comments section below. Thank you so much for taking a look at this with me from a Frisch perspective.